Hey College Success, welcome back. This is your week 5 chapter 8 assignment video. So my previous video, hopefully you've already checked out, talks about chapter 7. This is going to talk about just chapter 8, although I do want to remind you that you still have to post in both forums for attendance to count for week 5. All right, so let's jump into our assignment folder, scroll down. Chapter 8, here's your prompt that you have to respond your original response by Wednesday, respond to 2 classmates by Sunday. Chapter 8 talks about communication and kind of different situations in which we need to be effective communicators, which is almost all the time. But it says reflect outside your usual comfort zone and friend group. So if you can, maybe just casual coworkers, casual classmates, casual people you know in your life, not necessarily someone you're super close with because we have to communicate with them differently. So it says think of someone with whom you disagree. So if you've had a disagreement in the past, if you're currently disagreeing with them, and think about what they said had an effect on you, or how they said it. Did they use correct etiquette when saying what they said? If you did respond, what would you do to make certain your response was heard correctly and was not offensive? So if you can't think of an example of someone who's maybe not a super close person, you can use an example of like a family member or a close friend. But again, it's just sometimes we respond and communicate differently with those people who are closer to us. So essentially, what it boils down to is thinking about how you communicate when you disagree with someone. How do you approach a situation? How do you respond to someone? How do you anticipate the situation going? So kind of walking through that process. All right, so that's due by Wednesday for week 5 attendance, along with your chapter 7 prompt. And then make sure you respond to 2 classmates inside the form. And again, remember our response is meaningful. It's a sentence or two building off of or comparing, contrasting, or asking questions based on what someone else has responded with. All right, your chapter 8 assignment, I like this one as well. So it's going to open up as a PDF. The only thing I don't like is this one is not, like you can't click right in it to edit. But what you can do is if you want to pull up a Word document, you can certainly do that. But I'm totally fine with you going into the assignment here and just doing create submission and writing it in here. Again, if you want to do it in a Word doc, you can. But example 1, example 2, and example 3. So you can write them right in there. So essentially what you're doing is these are 3 poor examples. One is an email, one is a text message, and one is a face-to-face. And in each of these examples, the student could have done something a little better. Your job is to kind of rewrite the conversation. And if you want to even change modality, you can. Meaning if you think one of these should not be, like maybe this one, if you don't think it should have been a text message, it should have been an email, or it should have been a face-to-face conversation, same thing. You can change the modality of any of these. You're also welcome to leave them as an email, as text message, as face-to-face. But something is off about each of these. So you need to correct it. Maybe it's spelling, grammar, tone, attitude, approach, whatever it might be. Take a look at the email addresses used, that kind of thing. So you're going to rewrite each of those communication examples so that they are more proper and more in line with what chapter 8 talks about with proper and professional communication. So again, you can pull up a Word doc and type it in there and submit it, or you're welcome to just rewrite them right inside the create submission area. So submit that. All right, and then your chapter 8 quiz, you're going to go ahead and it's going to open up into a Word doc again. So here are your questions. As a member of the new student outreach team, you've been asked to help create a presentation about the differences between everyday communication and your communication in college. What elements will you include? So your day-to-day communication versus more professional academic communication. What's the differences? Like what would you include there? Question 2 says, reflect on your use of technology considering Rheingold's 5 literacies. What is your most and least developed area of media literacy? And give an example. So inside your textbook, section 8.3, here it is. Here's Rheingold. And this is talking about online communication. So when we talk about like participation, this isn't like raising your hand and asking questions in class. This is your participation in online formats, whether it's social media or comments or whatever it might be. So again, like collaboration, it's not working with a partner on a project in class. It's are you working with others through technology? That could be a partner in class if you're using technology to do so, like Google Docs or something, and you're going back and forth. So look at those 5. What's your most developed? What's your least developed? And then you're going to give an example of those. Question 3, communication is a two-way street. Most people are better at speaking than listening. If you wanted to improve your listening skills, what 3 strategies would you choose and why? Question 4, based on what you learned about barriers to communication, what do you need to consider when you realize you were not being understood? What steps could you take if you realize your message is unclear? And question 5 presents like a little scenario about what kind of communication Urena is showing by sitting in the back of the class and on her phone. She's kind of displaying that she's not really interested. What could she do to change that? How could she communicate a different message? All right, so when you're done, you'll make sure you save and submit that as well. So those are your Chapter 8 assignments. So if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out.